The purpose of today's discussion is not just to understand a relationship, but to understand the foundation on which every marriage, every partnership, and every emotional connection stands. We often hear that men place great importance on intimacy, but very few people know why. And the answer to this why is so deep, so scientific, and so emotional that many women are surprised when they finally hear it. Most women assume that a man's need is only physical, but in reality, this need is a layered system tied directly to his hormones, his emotional wiring, his sense of self-worth, and his relationship security. A man's body interprets intimacy as stress relief, emotional bonding, and a signal of connection. When a man becomes close to his partner, his body releases hormones that make him calm, attached, and emotionally balanced. But when intimacy is misunderstood or dismissed as just a physical desire, a silence enters the relationship, a silence that slowly grows into emotional distance. And many marriages weaken because of this very silence. The goal of this speech is not to say that men only want intimacy, but to explain that intimacy is an emotional language for men. It is a way through which they feel love, closeness, reassurance, and belonging. And when women begin to understand this language, a new softness, a new connection, and a new strength develops within the relationship. Today, we will explore this unspoken truth in depth, without blame, without complaint, and only with clarity and understanding. When people talk about a man's need for sex, they often reduce it to something purely physical, as if it's simply a biological urge or a surface-level desire. But for most men, intimacy is not something that begins or ends with the body. It is deeply tied to their emotions, their identity, and the way they understand love. Men are often raised in environments where expressing emotions openly is discouraged, where vulnerability is seen as weakness, and where emotional language is rarely taught. Because of this, many men grow up without the tools to communicate their feelings verbally. Instead, intimacy becomes their most comfortable and natural way of expressing closeness. For a man, physical intimacy is often the doorway to emotional connection. When he is close to his partner physically, he feels safe enough to be emotionally open in ways he normally isn't. It becomes a moment where his guard drops, his stress lowers, and he feels understood without needing to explain himself. Where words may fail him, intimacy becomes the language he relies on. It tells him, I matter, I am wanted, I belong here. This is why many men equate intimacy with love, not because they lack depth, but because physical connection taps directly into their emotional core. A man might not always say, I feel distant or am afraid of losing you, but he expresses these emotions through seeking closeness. When he reaches out, it is often his way of asking for reassurance or expressing affection. It is his expression of loyalty, trust, and desire to stay connected. And when his partner responds with warmth, it strengthens his emotional bond with her in a way few other experiences can. This is why, when intimacy disappears or becomes one-sided, men may interpret it as emotional rejection. Even if the woman's reasons are valid stress, exhaustion, or emotional overwhelm, a man often internalizes this distance as a sign that he is no longer needed or valued. It can create confusion because he doesn't see intimacy as just sex. He sees it as the emotional glue of the relationship. When that glue starts to weaken, he feels the relationship weakening with it. Understanding this doesn't mean that a woman must fulfill every request, nor does it mean a man's needs matter more. It simply highlights that for men, intimacy is emotionally loaded, deeply meaningful, and rooted in a desire for connection far beyond the physical. A man's hormonal system plays a far deeper role in intimacy than most people ever realize. Testosterone, which is the primary male hormone, is not just responsible for physical desire. It directly affects a man's confidence, mood, motivation, emotional presence, and even how connected he feels to his partner. When testosterone levels are stable and healthy, men naturally feel more balanced, calm, and engaged in their relationships. But when these levels drop or fluctuate, it affects everything from their patience to their emotional energy and the way they interpret closeness in a relationship. For many men, intimacy becomes the moment where their body resets emotionally and hormonally. During close, affectionate moments with their partner, the male brain releases oxytocin, the same bonding hormone that helps build trust and attachment. This release lowers stress hormones, reduces anxiety, and gives a sense of emotional grounding. That is why, after a period of intimacy, many men suddenly become more affectionate, more connected, or more emotionally open. Their body has literally shifted from stress mode into bonding mode. For them, intimacy isn't just a physical action, it's a biological doorway into emotional safety. Women often don't see this internal shift because their bodies respond differently. For most women, emotional connection often comes first and physical closeness follows. But for many men, physical closeness creates emotional connection. Their biology is wired in a way that the act of intimacy triggers emotional release rather than the other way around. This difference is where misunderstandings begin. A woman might think he only wants intimacy, while the man is actually seeking emotional stability, reassurance, and closeness through that experience. When a man is deprived of intimacy for long periods, it doesn't just affect his body, it affects his mind. Testosterone levels can dip, stress hormones rise, his energy decreases, and his confidence begins to shake. He may not express this verbally because many men struggle to articulate emotional discomfort. Instead, he may become quieter, more irritable, withdrawn, or disconnected. It's not the lack of physical closeness alone, it's the impact on his entire hormonal and emotional system. Understanding this helps partners see that intimacy is not a shallow or simple need for men. It is a biological, emotional, and psychological process that creates stability within them. When partners recognize this, they build a more compassionate and balanced relationship where both emotional and physical needs are understood rather than misinterpreted. Many women assume that when a man seeks intimacy, he is simply expressing a physical desire, while in reality, for most men, the moment carries deep emotional meaning. This misunderstanding is one of the biggest gaps between men and women in long-term relationships. A woman may think he only wants one thing, but a man is actually thinking, this is how I connect with you. This is how I feel close to you. For him, intimacy is not merely an act. It is an emotional reassurance that the relationship is still alive, that he is still valued, wanted, and chosen by his partner. When a woman turns away, says, I'm tired, or shows disinterest repeatedly, she may mean nothing more than exhaustion or stress. But a man's mind doesn't register it in a simple way. His brain interprets it as emotional rejection. He starts wondering if something is wrong, if he has failed, if she is unhappy, or if the relationship is slipping away. For him, intimacy is tied to security, validation, and belonging. So when he experiences distance, he doesn't see it as a minor refusal. He experiences it as a type of emotional disconnection. Over time, this misunderstanding becomes heavier. The woman thinks the man is demanding or insensitive to her emotional state. The man thinks she doesn't desire him, doesn't respect him, or no longer feels connected to him. What started as a simple difference in communication slowly becomes emotional tension. He becomes quieter, less expressive, and less confident. She becomes more distant, more stressed, and more emotionally unavailable. Both feel hurt, yet neither fully understands the other's experience. What women often don't realize is that men view intimacy as a way to repair emotional distance. When he initiates, he is not just seeking physical closeness, he is seeking emotional reconnection. It is his way of saying, I miss you. It is his way of attempting to dissolve stress, soften misunderstandings, and feel bonded again. But because the intent is emotional and the expression is physical, the message gets lost in translation. If a woman could see the emotional vulnerability behind a man's need, she would realize that his desire is not shallow. It is his attempt to stay close, to stay connected, and to keep the relationship alive. And if a man could understand that a woman needs emotional presence before physical closeness, He would approach intimacy with more patience and warmth. When both understand this subtle difference, the distance between them begins to dissolve and connection begins to grow again. When a man experiences repeated rejection from his partner, the impact reaches far deeper than most people realize. It does not stay limited to the moment, and it is not simply about being denied physical closeness. For many men, intimacy is tied to their emotional stability, sense of worth, and connection to their partner. So when a man hears "not tonight" again and again, it isn't just his body that reacts. His mind, confidence, and emotional state all begin to shift. He starts internalizing the rejection in ways that are often invisible to the other person. At first, he may try to brush it off, telling himself she must be tired or stressed. But as the pattern continues, a quiet worry starts to develop inside him. He wonders if he is becoming unwanted, unvalued, or unappreciated. Over time, the rejection creates a subtle emotional bruise. He might never express it openly because men are socially conditioned to suppress vulnerability, but internally it affects how he sees himself and how he interacts in the relationship. His stress hormone levels increase, his patience decreases, his energy drops, and his sense of closeness begins to fade. Intimacy isn't just a desire for him, it is a reassurance that he is still loved, still accepted, and still connected. When this reassurance disappears, his behavior changes. He becomes quieter, less expressive, and less enthusiastic about communication. He may stop initiating conversations or affectionate gestures because he fears another form of rejection. A once loving and outgoing man slowly turns into someone emotionally reserved, not because he wants distance, but because he is trying to protect himself from further hurt. Many women misinterpret this withdrawal as moodiness, ego, or lack of care, when in reality the man is struggling internally. Men rarely verbalize this pain. They feel embarrassed to admit that intimacy affects them emotionally. So instead of talking about it, they shut down. They build walls, hold back feelings, and try to cope in silence. This silence becomes the real problem. It turns small emotional wounds into deeper relational cracks. The woman, unaware of the emotional impact, may assume nothing is wrong and the cycle continues. Understanding this dynamic can transform a relationship. When a woman recognizes how deeply rejection affects her partner, empathy grows. When a man feels emotionally safe and understood, the entire relationship softens. Intimacy is not just a physical act. For many men, it is a crucial emotional lifeline that keeps love alive. A healthy relationship, especially when it comes to intimacy, is never one-sided. Har rishta ek do tarfa street ki tara hota hai. Jahan dono partners ki understanding our effort zaruri hoti hai. Aksar misunderstandings isi wajah se paida hoti hain ke mard ar aurat apni emotional wiring ko. Ek dusre ke perspective se nahi samajte, aurat ko jab, emotional security, or connection chahiye hota hai. Mardus walked physical closeness ya intimacy ke zariye apni feelings or reassurance show karta hai. Ye dono chizain asal mine ek system ki tara kam karti hain mard intimacy ke zariye connection feel karta hai or arat emotional connection ke zariye intimacy masus karti hai. Job dono sides is interplay ko samaj line to rishta naturally mazboot or resilient ho jata hai. Dono partners ka ek duzre ki needs ko samajna or respect karna bahot zaruri hai. Agar aurat emotional softness or receptiveness dikhaye to mard apni ap ho zyada connected or caring feel karta hai or uske actions naturally orat ki taraf affectionate or thoughtful ho jate hain. Isi tara agar mard patience or understanding dikhaye emotional closeness keli waqt or space provide kare to aurat kobhi secure or valued mesus hota hai. Ye balance surf physical ya emotional nahi. Balka dono ka integration hai. Intimacy ko compete ya force nahi karna chahiye. Ye complete our mutual process hai. Jabdono egdus reiki language ko samajla tehain, to misunderstandings or resentment bohot kam hoje tehain, or silent distance naturally khatam hojata hai, ekor zaruri point ye hai ke emotional awareness or empathy rishtan ko long-term tax sustain karte hain, jo couples apney partner key needs or triggers ko samajte hain, wohar disagreement, ya rough patch, ko ziada effectively handle kar litain. Martin or oraton ke emotional wiring alag hoti hai, likin jab dono taraf se understanding or effort hota hai, to ye differences ek challenge nahi, bulky strength ka source ban jetain. Is process mind communication or transparency bohat, important hoti hai apni feelings, or insecurities. Ko openly share karna or partner key feelings ko judge ya dismiss kiye binasuna, rishta emotionally richer or stronger banata hai. Akir main dono ki awareness or mutual effort hai wo. Cheese hai jo intimacy ko sustainable banati hai, emotional gaps ko bridge karti hai. Or relationship koek healthy, fulfilling, or long-lasting connection main transform karti hai. And finally, remember that a relationship is not just about two people being together, but about two hearts understanding each other and two minds being aware of each other. Every man and woman is unique in their emotional wiring and needs, and true connection is only possible when we make the effort to understand each other's language. Intimacy is not just a physical act. It is a signal of love, trust, reassurance, and belonging. When you genuinely understand your partner's needs and respond with respect and effort, you not only strengthen the relationship, but also enhance your own life and emotional well-being. From today onward, do not ignore small misunderstandings. Make every effort to bridge connections. Take steps to close emotional distance. Most importantly, make your partner feel that you understand them, you care, and you are committed to their needs. When this happens on both sides, the relationship doesn't just survive, it flourishes. Remember, the secret of intimacy and emotional connection lies in understanding and effort. This is what transforms a marriage or relationship from superficial or stressful to deep, loving, and truly fulfilling. Approach every day with this new perspective, handle misunderstandings with clarity and empathy, and treat every moment as an opportunity to build connection. True strength, real love, and authentic intimacy come only when both partners understand each other's needs and work together as a team. And this is the secret that allows your relationship not just to survive, but to truly thrive.